I think, Steve's presentation today, and also the themes that we've had from Sue, from Jocelyn as Deputy Minister, and from Matthew Quinn, change this recurrent theme. I think I've heard more use of the word change when it comes to Welsh social housing over the last few weeks and months than you probably hear the other side of the pond in the context of the US presidential election. But I think, as with the US presidential election, it's important that we keep our eye on the ball and that we're clear that we want real change, not superficial change. I guess both the Republican and the Democratic nominees in the US have used a rather colourful truism. Apparently, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Which I think, to really describe in some kind of colourful way what Community Housing Cymru is looking for through this process. I do come from a rural background. We are looking for real change, and we have no desire to see a pig with lipstick or otherwise. But we have been very, very pleased at the support that we've had in our calls for change, which were really around the need for change around our regulatory framework. We started that campaign before the Assembly elections last year. Since then, we had for a short time minority Labour government, then the One Wales administration, and we were delighted for the support that we got from WLGA in calling for change. And, well, very, very pleased that it's still less than a year since Jocelyn Davies announced in the Senate that she was going to ask Sue Essex to lead the Affordable Housing Task and Finish group. That has been, I think, a great thing to see change come about so fast. To think that Sue, Bob and Peter were able to go around that quite mammoth task and to come back with 43 recommendations by June of this year, and then we can meet here today and really talk about having a co-productive means of taking that forward. For us, we felt that change was essential. We had a list of 4 things that we wanted specific change on. Section 9 agreement, so that we could speed up regeneration activity, the group structures circular, so that our true potential when it comes to social enterprise could be realised. And very pleased to hear Jocelyn Davies talk about October the 3rd. I did write it down, Minister. That will be the date that we'll see real change when it comes to group structures. It's a small issue, but I'm given to believe that some years ago, when there was a consultation on this with the sector, the consultation lasted 4 years. And at the end of that 4-year period, there was an astounding no. We had the quick wins letter following Sue's interim report last April, and it will be actually less than 6 months before we see actual reform when it comes to group structures. So I hope that acts perhaps as a signal that we are about to see much more significant change. But I think there are other reasons why we really have to knuckle down and engage in that process. It's nearly 10 years since we've had devolution and housing as one of those key areas of devolved activity in Wales. During that period, we've had the Hills Review, the Elton Review, the Barker Review, Calcutt, Cave, more recently the Taylor Review on rural housing. In England, there's been a massive amount of activity, calibrating policy, looking to the future, thinking about what really needs to be done in an English context. And we needed that work within a Welsh context, particularly 9 years into devolution, where frankly, we haven't seen enough fresh thinking. And I think perhaps the biggest challenge that we all face isn't in ticking off the boxes in terms of those 43 recommendations. It is actually in ensuring that we do have effective cultural change. About a year ago, I had the pleasure of going to a WCVA conference, which was held again in the Metropole in Cymru, Wales. And at that conference, there was a senior civil servant who said that there had been a recent global study undertaken by Harvard University on what works when it comes to delivering public services. And the results were, broadly, that if you wish to achieve excellence in public service delivery, then you have to give ownership, not just of the problem, but of the solution to the service provider. And that actually, command and control can only, at best, deliver mediocrity. So if, in looking to the future, we want to raise our game, I think it's that broader cultural change that we have to take. And I think, again, Sue's report gives us the basis to be that ambitious. I should also mention, though, that, and this is really something, a big message perhaps from Community Housing Cymru to our friends in local government and also in WAG. We never, ever asked for deregulation. You know, I think I must underline that, particularly this week with, you know, HBOS being taken over, you know, the terrible news with Lehman Brothers, you know, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and all the rest of it. You know, we never ever wanted deregulation. We wanted more appropriate regulation, particularly on finance and governance. And I think, you know, the recent events that we've seen underline just how timely some of those recommendations are from Sue, and I know with particular input from Peter and Bob there. And as I said, you know, we only asked for 4 very specific and quite modest changes through the regulatory review. So I guess, you know, when Sue indicated that she was prepared to take on the work, but she wanted to take a broader look at housing median wages, if I was honest, you know, I gulped. You know, more than one person told me, there you go, so, you know, careful what you wish for, Edgar Allan Poe and all the rest of it. But I guess, if anything, we've been, you know, pleasantly exposed as not being ambitious enough. If, you know, we do see 39 additional recommendations there that I think will make a very, very substantial change to the way in which we operate for the future. I, again, don't want to go through a list of those recommendations, but I do feel that it's important that we touch on some of the highlights. You know, physical adaptation grants. How can we, as a small, smart nation, claim or to even have the ambition to be creating citizen-centred services if we can't come up with a decent system that can clear the backlog for stair lifts and handrails? Surely, you know, we've got to get some of these basic essential services right. Delighted that that is in there. Delighted as well some of the messages when it comes to carbon efficiency, particularly given that some commentators are now predicting that 23%, nearly a quarter of the UK population, will be fuel poor this time next year on current trends. More than a quarter will be spending over 10% of their income on fuel alone. So I think, you know, the more that we can do on planning for the future on that side, the better. The quick wins, the freedom to purchase existing stock. Well, clearly that is something that could have a huge impact on the current environment. Very pleased that it emerged from the interim report in April, and that Gordon Brown actually came up with something similar for England in July in his legislative programme. So, you know, again, they're an example of where perhaps through having this review process, we're actually starting to lead on some areas of housing policy rather than follow. The change programme itself, I think, is long overdue. Great to see more action there when it comes to mortgage rescue, and already £5 million earmarked to assist there. You know, it's not enough. 5 million is going to scrape at the surface of the problem. But, you know, we do have to do more. And I think, you know, very, very pleased to hear that the Minister wants to reintroduce home buy. But as we saw from the Prime Minister's statement a couple of weeks back, what they're now doing in England, apart from, you know, the stamp duty reforms that are going to impact on both sides of Offa's Dyke, we saw £1 billion worth of English departmental money being brought forward to speed up mortgage rescue and home buy in England. You know, there has to be a Welsh response. I think we do need to look at the flexibility of bringing forward WAG resources so that we can meet urgent need and build on the good news when it comes to mortgage rescue.